Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Hi, guys. I am so excited that you're here. How is everybody doing? I have another magical episode from our Life Changing Messages series for you this week. Now, I am so excited to introduce to you our guest, the beautiful Allie. I hope I'm going to pronounce her last name right. Allie Mirosevic. Mirosevic. I'm not sure how to say that correctly, but it'll be written down in the show notes so you can find her. This episode really is such a beautiful example of what happens when you're almost kind of already in alignment and you just need like a little tweak. Like you just need like you're pretty much on the path, but you just need a little bit of a push to the right or a push to the left. And that's really where Allie's story comes in. Allie was already starting to create a business, an online business. She was creating these beautiful journals, and her spirit guides were like, "You're already on the right path, but we're just going to kind of blow this up a little. We're going to make it a little bit bigger than you're willing to imagine it for yourself." And Allie really took the advice from her spirit guides and ran with it. And she moved way past the original thought that she had had for her online business and how this then turned into something really beautiful and really big and really magical. And so I'm so excited for you to get to listen to Allie's story. And she has a few things to share with you about manifestation, which I'm excited for you to hear. But guys, I'm really curious because we've done a few of these life-changing messages podcasts from through this series, and I'm curious how you're liking them. Are they helpful for you? Is it interesting to hear what goes on in our spiritual guidance sessions and readings? Do you prefer more solo episodes? I want to hear from you guys. What is it that you really prefer? I do want to say that the next week's episode is going to be a solo episode. I have a really good one coming for you guys. I'm not going to share what it's about, but I'm really excited for it, guys. It's one that I've been meaning to do for a really long time, so I'm excited to bring that to you. But I'm just curious, what's kind of feeling most helpful for you? Are we happy with the mix? And what are we feeling about this life changing messages series? I want to hear from you guys. So reach out to me on Instagram at I am Jessica Rachel. And if you're not already following me on over there, please go and do so because I have a lot of exciting things coming down through the pipeline that I'm introducing on Instagram more or first, and then it'll come out on the podcast as well. So definitely make sure to reach out and follow me over on Instagram. If you aren't already, again, at I am Jessica Rachel, some interesting things coming down the pipeline over there. And that's where we get to talk. That's where we get to chat. That's where you get to tell me all of the things that you're wanting to know, the questions that you have, and the experiences that you've had with your spirit guides. I'm always in my inbox there. And so if you have things that you want to say and you just want to reach out to me or just say hi, I'm over there on Instagram chatting with all of you. And so I welcome it. And otherwise, I am really excited for you guys to listen to this episode. I believe we are doing a bit of a giveaway together in this episode. So make sure that you listen for that. If you are going to write a review for this podcast, a 5-star review for this podcast will get you entered into the running for the giveaway that we mentioned in this episode. So definitely be sure to listen on the rules for that, which will be in the episode. Otherwise, without further ado, here is the beautiful Allie and her story with listening to her spirit guides. Hi, Allie, and welcome to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Jessica.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we were just talking a little bit about this before we hit record here. And I was saying this is such a full circle moment for us because I believe in the very last session that you and I had together, I flat out said, and when you do all of these things and it all lines up, you're going to come on my podcast and share about all of the magical things that come through. And
Yep.
here we are.
Here we are, like almost 6 months later or so. That was in October.
Yeah, right. So not even that
Right.
long ago, but that
Yeah.
usually is the timeline I find that kind of it takes to kind of put all those things into fruition that come through because it really is a lot of information that can come through in a 90-minute spiritual guidance session. It can take some time to actually put it all into practice, right?
I 100% agree. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I would love, before we kind of dive into everything that we spoke about on in both of our sessions, and we're definitely going to dive into all of that because we've had two separate spiritual guidance sessions together. So I would really love to just start by you introducing yourself to everybody. Tell us who you are, what you do now, and yeah, just give us a brief summary of sort of where you're at today.
Sure, I would love to. Again, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. But I'm Allie. I am a life coach who specializes in journaling and manifestation. And I'm also the founder of Blist, which is a journaling company. And through my coaching services, the journals I design, and then recently launched course that I created within the journaling manifestation space, I help women gain clarity, confidence, and ultimately just see and create more pockets of magic in their life. So shifting their mindset, again, just kind of instilling more confidence in themselves so that they can go out and really be and live the life that they want. And based in Los Angeles, but I'm originally from Chicago, which I always like to say because I'm pretty proud of my Midwestern roots. But I've been in LA for 12 years now, almost 13. Met my husband here, raising my two young kids here, and feel very much kind of in the trenches of motherhood, in the trenches of entrepreneurship, and in the trenches of kind of figuring out if LA is the place for us long term, or if it's back to the Midwest, or any of that.
Yeah, oh, so beautiful. And I hear you. We're all like in the trenches. We're in the middle of it, right
Yeah.
smack in the middle of our busy, crazy lives,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, you're doing this like the most beautiful thing and helping so many people along their journey as they kind of feel kind of smack dab in the trenches of it all and trying to figure it all out. So it's perfect
You.
for your message, right?
You. Yeah, it really does feel very aligned.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous. And so I would again, I would really love for us. We are going to dive into all of the things that kind of came through when we channeled your spirit guides. But I want to back up a little bit because I want to know what sort of brought you to even wanting to have a spiritual guidance session in the first place? And what was your sort of upbringing like? Was this sort of commonplace to go and see a psychic or a spiritual medium? Is this something that people talked about? Can you walk us through a little bit of what was your, if you would call it a spiritual awakening like, and then what brought you to decide to have a session with me in the first place?
Sure. Those are great questions. I feel like on the spiritual awakening side, I've always been a pretty spiritual person, just always interested in self-improvement, personal growth. Was the girl at 16, reading The Secret and like all I just can think of all the titles of the books. Very curious about it, but maybe it not necessarily sticking, for lack of a better word, until a little bit later in life, and also not fully embracing that part of myself until quite recently, actually. But yeah, I would, so I can't like pinpoint it necessarily to one moment of having an awakening, other than just interested in it for a while. And I think just as I've gotten more comfortable and confident in who I am, embracing it more. And that goes on the same side of the psychic medium, like always intrigued by having like readings and this and that, but not necessarily knowing where to start because it can be really overwhelming, just like going to Google and finding, a medium to work with. And I heard you being interviewed on a podcast and was just kind of hooked from that moment. And I mean, I think pretty quickly after booked a session with you. And here we are now, like after that first session I had, booked another follow-up session a few months later, and just really one, believe in like your talent and ability to channel, but also feel very lucky that I found, yeah, someone who I trust as well.
Yeah, oh, it's so beautiful. And thank you for that. And I really want to say, I am so thrilled to have you on this podcast because I remember thinking, like, even by the time we had had our second session, you are such a good example of someone who takes the advice from her spirit guides and like runs with it, right?
Ooh,
You really, that, it's one thing to be told what to do by your guides, it's another thing to actually go and do it, right? And to take action on the
yeah.
things.
I agree, and it's so funny you say that because after our first session, which I know we'll get into, it was like I think as you mentioned either offline or at the beginning of this podcast, like I received so much information, and now it's maybe been 9-ish months since that first recording, I have put everything into action, but it wasn't like an immediate, it took me a while after that first session to like get things going. It wasn't like, oh, I got off the session and I had all these ideas and everything, but to actually get things live and like in place and confident, again, like wearing the new hat that the spirit guide advised me on, it took a minute. But now in hindsight, looking back, it does seem actually quite quick between that first session and where we are now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's so beautiful to underline because I think our spirit guides, they're really always kind of offering us an image that feels just a little bit out of reach of where we feel we are right now, right? Like sometimes it even, and a lot of clients even tell me it feels sometimes shocking because it's so far-fetched from what they expected to hear,
I
right?
could,
And
I
so
could
then it
totally
takes a
resonate with
minute to
that.
kind of like reevaluate your identity for a minute.
Oh my gosh, so well said and so true.
Right? Yeah. And so
Yeah.
then, yeah, it takes a minute to kind of go, wait a second, is this who I am? Because my spirit guide is supposed to know me best, and they're telling me this is who I am. And now I have to go and do all of these things, and they're holding the bar so much higher than I ever held for myself, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, and that's why I always say, especially when we're having these episodes with clients who are really taking the advice of their guides, your guide is always kind of planting seeds, and it's
Yeah.
always up to you to sort of decide if you're going to run with it or not, or kind of, go forward. But that's why I always say I'm never claiming to predict the future, right? That's not what your spirit guide is doing. They're saying that if you step into alignment, this is the inevitable result. And then the choice is up to you. Are you going to step into alignment or not? Right?
Yeah.
And what's the iteration of that? And I think this was you. This journey over the last 9 months or so was you really stepping into alignment.
Yeah, I would want I mean I agree. I feel like at that first session, one, it was so interesting because the guide, I think you said it perfectly, where like they're showing you a vision that just feels a little bit stretched or out of touch, but it wasn't far off from like I had written in a notebook, some of the ideas that the guide had prior to our session, like just long-term ideas that I wanted to do. But the guide gave me even bigger ideas. Like instead of an ebook on manifestation, I was doing a course on manifestation. It was just like, I was like, oh,
Yeah, they pushed you a little bit further than you
yeah,
were ready to
yeah,
imagine in that moment. Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's talk about this because if I'm correct, before when we had our first session, you already had the Blist company. Is that correct? Like
Yep,
you've already had some journals put out online, right?
this is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what sort of brought you to this place of I need a spiritual guidance session? I need to talk to my guides here. What was kind of the thought behind that?
I think feeling like the journals weren't necessarily, while I was having sales and everything, it wasn't where I wanted to be in terms of like growth for my business. And it just felt like something was missing, and I wasn't sure how to get my business being a low cost product based company only to the next level. Like it did feel like something was missing. And in brainstorming sessions, I would write down, like the manifestation ebook, because I've always had an interest in spirituality and manifestation and personal growth. Like I had all these like ebook ideas just to get like the digital, like a digital product out there as well that's a little bit easier to, once you can promote it and everything, it's easier to scale and have sales and all of that. So I think what drew me to the initial session was kind of for that idea, like to see where, if I was aligned or if not, like what was missing, because I was feeling like I was on the right track, but at the same time, it also felt like an uphill battle. So it did feel like something was missing or misaligned, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that session, I mean, blew me away.
That's amazing. I love it. So yeah, and I think and I'm so thankful that I'm learning as we create these episodes to now I was so lucky that you actually sent me the recordings that you guys get to keep because I don't keep all of them. There's too many to hold on to.
Oh yeah, you'd
And
have
I
no
actually
space.
right? No space in my Zoom cloud
Yeah.
there. But I did get to go back and watch these two sessions and I do remember that it was sort of like your guys were like you're almost on the right track, right?
Yeah,
Like they were like
yeah,
you're here, but hold on. Here's a much bigger vision. So, can we talk about let's talk about that first session and kind of what came
yeah.
through because that actually was the main question that you had. You were like, I just want my guides to tell me if I'm aligned or not. And they were like,
Yep.
almost.
Sure.
So, yeah, can you share with us what that kind of felt like for you or what they said if you remember? And I can help you fill in the blanks a little bit too.
Yeah. Oh, I remember a lot of it. I think what the guide was really pushing was kind of embracing more of the manifestation, transformation side of journaling, where I was more at the time just pushing kind of journaling is good for you. You'll feel better, less stress, less anxiety, and not totally going into the full transformation, partly because I was nervous. Like I was nervous to wear kind of the spiritual hat, if you will. And so that session really, the guide was like, it's more about the transformation, more about the manifestation, and your journal is the tool for it. And I had to sit with that for a little bit after the session, just to, not that I didn't disagree with it, but just to gain the confidence to go out there and be like, oh, yeah, my journal is actually a tool for change. It's not just like a stress reducer or an anxiety reducer or whatever that is. And that in itself is change, but really talking more about the big shifts you can experience when you journal, which ultimately is manifestation in itself. So that was one takeaway. And then the second was kind of on the product side, like saying that it's not just about the journal. It's like I'm here meant to be more of a spiritual manifestation teacher. I take in a lot. I love this stuff. I've always loved this stuff. And so have always done my own work and research in this space. And I think when you were like, no, no, you're a manifester. This is what you're meant to teach. That also took me a minute to work with because while I loved hearing it, I was like, oh, wow, I did have some imposter syndrome around it. Wait, me? And so that again, after the session, I kind of had to sit with it and then realize that a lot of the people I look up to in this space kind of likely started the same way as me, just being really into personal growth and like learning things on their own and all of that. And then going to get like the credentials or whatever to help them grow in their career. But I think that that then just gave me the confidence, like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too. But again, it took a minute for all of that to sink in. And by a minute, I mean months. And then the guide also suggested, again, I had written just in, months prior, kind of brainstorming digital products because I did want to explore digital products. So I had written on my own just some ebooks I could create because that felt really easy and pop them on the website and everything. And then I didn't even mention the ebooks to the guide, but the guide was like, you're creating a course. You're meant to create a manifestation course using journaling, using your journaling method, and promote that. So
Yeah.
I did that as well.
I know. And here's the best part. And I did it, right? Like I actually did it though. And you did. And I was perusing your website and wow, she really did everything that was outlined by
Yeah.
your guides. Like it's all on there, which is so amazing. And
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say on the course side too, it took me like, again, it was something where I loved the idea and everything, but then I had to go research I was like, I was unsure of how to deliver it. So initially I was like, do I put my ebook up on a Google Drive and give people that? It took some time to actually find like the right way to deliver the info. And then I feel like this goes to your point earlier of where you just listen to the little pings or someone will give a suggestion and things fall into place. Someone else who was doing a course did their course through an app on their website. And I was like, oh, I bet my website host has an app store that I could buy a course platform for. And then it became really easy to develop the course once I kind of found the
Mhm.
right platform and everything.
See, and it was almost probably like it came through a little intuitive download. Oh, I wonder.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it came through from that one person kind of mentioning her own course and how,
Mhm.
like I had mentioned, I was going to maybe put mine on Google Drive, and she's, no, you do not want to do that. Like, you want a proper course hosting platform. And then I was looking at actual course hosting platforms, and they just weren't aligned budget wise. And I already have this website. It was all these other factors. And then yeah, the app that I created my course on that built goes right into my website. I felt once I found that it was pretty quick to create.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And I actually want to underline here because this is actually a lot bigger of a shift than maybe you're saying it is. Because really, you started out with the idea that you were going to create a product-based business, that these
Yes.
journals were going to be
Yeah.
the star of the show. And your spirit guide is, you're
Yeah,
going to be the star of the show. This is
very
a
true.
service-based business where people are going to be working with you. It's not
Yeah,
that you're just promoting these journals. It's like you're
yeah,
promoting yourself here. And I think that can be a scary leap of confidence for
mhm,
sure. To kind of go, hold on, I don't get to hide in the background here.
right. Exactly. Yeah, and it was more because I'm even prior to this session, I'm on social, and I wasn't totally scared around showing my face and stuff. But like you're saying, it was more prior to the session, it was more about journaling. And now it's more about sharing my tips and tools and all of that, and not just this is my journal and this is what it has and all of that.
Yeah. So again,
So yeah.
it's like this tweet. It is a shift though, but if we're talking about
Mhm.
your guide pushing you into alignment, they're kind of going at first you were thinking about making manifestation as this little side thing, right? This little
Mhm.
ebook on the side that would just be up on your website, right? This little ebook. And your guide is like, no, no, no. This is the thing that you're so passionate about. Why are we putting it off to the side? Let's make it
Right.
everything you're doing, right? Because it is what lights you up. And so it's that kind of courage to step into this thing that really totally lights me up. I'm actually going to make it everything I do.
Very true. And I think it's like I still feel so new it's every day is still a work in progress and everything. I definitely still feel very much in the like building stage and growing confident and all of that. But I know that that's a journey.
Yeah. If it helps, I'm what, 6 years down the road and still feel like that. So does
Yeah, exactly.
it really ever go away? I don't know. Do we ever get rid
You
of it?
always
The
stretch
imposter
yourself.
syndrome, right?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
got to dance with the fear, right? It's always going to be there. We just kind of say hi and keep going.
That.
Keep
Well,
going
thank you
anyway.
for sharing that too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I guess I would love to share, I think there was something else that kind of really came up in that first session that was really helpful, which is this comes up a lot when we sort of talk about our path and our purpose, right? You came in kind of going, I already have this business, is it aligned? And that really boils down to the question of, is this my purpose in this life, right? What is my path and purpose? And sometimes our path and purpose are aligned with our career, right? And sometimes we just have an overarching kind of umbrella path and purpose, and our career doesn't necessarily have to lean into that or not. Like it can be a part of it, but doesn't have to be. But for you, it was like, no, no, no. This is from your past life. This is stuff that really needs to come forward. And it does have to be entangled with your career. Like it's all of it. So do you remember any of that? Can you share a little bit more?
Yes, I loved learning about the past life. Like that was so interesting to me. I had never had anything like that before. And I was just like, I wore that hat pretty proudly for the people that I would share this information with. But do you want me to go into like the past life?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
And you can fill in the blanks if I have forgotten anything important, but I remember the past life was relating to being a manifestation teacher and guide and living somewhere in Europe where kind of being witchy was frowned upon, but I was a very strong manifester. And I was able to make a good life for me and my family. However, it was still kind of shunned to be, spiritual like that. So I sort of hid my gifts. But people found out, and those that wanted sessions or anything would come to me to help them manifest. And I would help them manifest their desires and everything. And so the purpose in this life, where now that it's more accepted, or even not that it's more accepted, but it's more about just owning who you are and not feeling like you have to hide the parts of you that you really love or enjoy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's 100% it. And I think, and I know, I guess I would say we don't know if back in those days they would have called it manifesting, right? Like I have no idea if that's a new term or not, but definitely the sentiment is the same. And it's really sort of like when we talk about a past life, there's always sort of some like unfinished business that kind of needs to come through that lends itself to our path and purpose in this life. And for you, it's not that you're repeating the same thing over again. It's sort of in that life, there was this feeling of, I have to hide this part of myself and people are
Mhm.
coming to me in secret. And instead, I'm going to stand up and say, no, this is what I do and this is what I share. And I'm proud of it and I'm happy to share it with people. And then there was this other piece, and I'm going to fill in a little bit blank here, which is that there was this piece about how you were kind of almost doing it for them in some
Yeah.
ways. Like you were kind
Yeah.
of doing the rituals or whatever it was for them. And in this lifetime, it was like, no, 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 this lifetime, I'm going to teach a man to fish, right? Like I'm going to show them how to do it. And so there really is this element of being a teacher or a coach in this lifetime of
Mhm.
showing people how to do this thing for themselves. And you really have stepped into that now, which is so beautiful.
It's so interesting on the teacher coach side because every time I've done like any type of, personality quiz, or I don't even know the names of things. So, but I think or like Dharma, is that something
Yeah,
like your
Dharma.
life purpose and stuff?
Mhm.
I always come up, or life path number, all of that. It always comes up with the teacher. And I've never been able to uh, make the connection. Um, and here we are now, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. See, so you were just like one little baby step to the right towards your
Yeah.
true path, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And the other thing that's so cool about this, and I think that maybe you could share with me if this is really the truth, because I think you probably are way more well versed in the world of manifestation than myself. But there is something to be said about authenticity and stepping into your authenticity as the ultimate means for transformation or manifestation, if you will.
Totally.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so then would you say then since you've stepped into sort of your authenticity that things have started to kind of come your way or kind of fall into place a little bit easier?
Yes, I would definitely agree. Easier. It feels one more excited showing up. Like it just feels, I feel very invigorated. And I would also say things are starting to come into my life easier. And I don't want to like make people think it's a snowball of all these opportunities here and there or anything, but yeah, little nuggets are coming and I follow the path and it turns into something bigger. Or I think in one of the our last session, you had suggested going on more podcasts, not starting my own podcast, but going on more podcasts as a way to help promote my brand. And I went on one and she led me to another to go on, so it's like all these things that just happen when, yeah, you're more aligned, I guess.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
hasn't felt like a struggle.
Yeah. And
You
that,
also said to get on TikTok, which I was or the spirit guide, I should say,
yeah.
also said to get on TikTok, which I was very resistant to because TikTok. And I, I don't know what happened, but it was like suddenly one day I was just like, I'm getting on TikTok. And while it hasn't resulted in any sales or clients yet, I am getting a lot more engagement and finding it easier to get engagement on TikTok over the other platform, Instagram. And so it's just motivating me to keep going there. And it's also helping me build confidence just in general on talking and everything, sharing my
Yeah,
message.
yeah. And that's so beautiful because I think that maybe some of us think that, well, if I do everything my guide says, then it's like a big pile of money is going to land in my lap and that's it, right? Like that's a good. And I wish that it was like that, but it really is this journey of your guide is always only giving you the next right little breadcrumb or baby step. And then it's I follow that breadcrumb with kind of like, it's always a little leap of faith. I have no idea what's going to happen when I do that little thing, but usually it leads to the next right step,
Right.
right? And then the next right step. And so it is a bit of a snowball effect where it accumulates over time. But again, like there is some time. There's definitely like it does take a minute. And but then we kind of look back and we kind of go, right, as you even said at the beginning of this, like it hasn't actually been that long. Like in the grand
Right.
scheme of things, 6 months is
Yeah.
a crazy a short amount of time to kind of go from absolutely nothing or, a very different business to a full-fledged coaching course, right,
Yeah.
online and stating this is who I am, right? It took me way longer than you to
I think
step into that.
it feels really good. And I am still doing the journals, but now I feel like there's a pressure off the journals. I feel like the journals help add to my business
Yeah.
rather than it just being about the journals. And
Yeah.
if for my coaching clients, I gift them one of my journals. Like I just think it's another beautiful layer to the business, but it's not all about the journals.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely a shift for you because you thought that your journals were the business and now they're
Yeah,
just
yeah. I mean, I thought I was building, and again, I think this is where it's so interesting because there's a lot of overlap when you actually listen to your intuition between your intuition and what the guides tell you. They just give it to you, I think, more clearly or help you like decipher it more. But exactly, I thought I was building when I first set out with Blist, prior to our sessions and everything, prior to coming to you feeling a bit misaligned. I thought I was building a huge product-based business. I thought I was going to have like warehouses and, you know, just a massive journal company. And when I came to you, I was already in the state of like, I don't think I want to build this huge product-based business where I like have to work with my manufacturer on getting an or ordering thousands and thousands of units at a time and then storing it in a warehouse and paying warehouse fees and all of that. So it was definitely interesting because like we've mentioned, I was already feeling, okay, the very first vision I had for my business when I first started, that's no longer. But as you said, I was still thinking it was about the journals in some way.
Yeah, yeah. So your guides definitely gave you a shift. And I think it's also just such a testament to how intuitive you already are and were, which is and this is what I love when my favorite sessions with clients are the ones where everything that comes through from their guide is something they already knew. And it's just confirmation, right?
Yeah,
It's a thought they already had, and now it's just being, reflected back to them. And I think that was really the case for you, especially even in our second session when we were talking a little bit more about the details of your business. Everything that your guide was saying was definitely a thought you already had.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy. I even wrote down, this is just a little tip for anyone who books a session with you if they're interested, but I had written down like all my questions and then what I thought the answer was so that I could
Ooh.
compare after like how accurate, my intuition and everything was. And there
That
were
is
some things that I got incorrect and was a little off, but it was definitely a good exercise in like the intuition piece as well.
That is such a good tip. I am going to suggest that to all of our listeners. That's a great way to just even learn to trust your own intuition a little better. Because then,
Mhm.
if you can see that comparatively, like I'm not telling you anything different than you already knew, then you really start to trust your own answers, right? So, thank you for that. I'm going to start to suggest that to all of my clients going
Yay.
forward. That's
Love
really a
that.
great idea, right? And again, because it is, I always say I'm not special here. Like I wasn't born with these amazing magical powers. This is just something that we all have. And I chose to kind of, dive a little deeper into, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't get there too. And I really love that you're just like and that you're really just kind of working as this and using our sessions not only as a means to get some answers, but a means to learn to trust yourself a little bit more. And that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Would you say that you have been trusting your intuitive sort of downloads and your intuition a little bit more since having our spiritual guidance sessions?
Yes, for sure. And that has gone against everything. And I'm sure if you're a spiritual person, anyone might be able to relate to this, but it's like everyone's saying go X and my intuition is go Y. And that has been the main challenge for me in the past, listening to all of the opinions and feedback when it's deep down. I know that that is not the route, at least at that time, to take. And so it is more kind of gaining the confidence to be like, okay, this actually doesn't feel right. Like I'm going to listen to what my intuition is saying and go that way instead. And I definitely feel more confident and comfortable in doing that. And I also, I feel like that's when it's like the breadcrumbs. That's when you follow the breadcrumbs. That's when the other opportunities present themselves rather than going the direction that, like, everyone is saying to go. You're just up against more walls.
Yeah, for sure. And it can be scary to be the one who dares to say something different, right? Yeah, and do the different thing despite what everyone else is saying. And then, you know, sometimes there's a fear of, but maybe I could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so you just kind of hope for the best. This is so beautiful. I would love to sort of underline what action steps do you feel that your spirit guides kind of gave you that maybe you took, and how have they played out for you? Have they worked out for the best, or what's kind of played out since our sessions? And you can talk about either of them. And I guess I'll underline for the audience here that our first session was sort of like the big redirect, and the second session was a little bit more about business strategy, I guess I would
Strategy.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking a lot about who your ideal avatar is and how you're going to market them. And right, you were already in the works of creating, or you had created the course but hadn't published it, I think, at that time.
Voted it, right.
Yeah. So what action steps did you sort of take, I guess, prior to each of our sessions, and what's played out? Like, where are you now?
Sure. I guess in that first session, that was really all about giving. I should say, one, I love that the guides come with like receipts or tools or whatever you want to call it. I love that they give you tangible tips to like then and go implement, no matter how long it takes.
Mhm.
Of course, if it resonates. Everything did for me. But in that first session, it was all about developing a course. I think that was the main message, like developing a course around my journaling method for manifestation and promoting that. And so after that session, the main takeaway was develop this course. And I would say that session was in April of last year. It took until October when our next session was to like get the course ready to go. And then in the second session, I came to you and the course was pretty ready. Like it was in a good place where I was like, okay, I need to start talking about this. I think I was still putting some final touches on it, but it was in a space where I felt like I knew the format, I knew the flow, I knew the out like the benefits that people would receive from completing the course. So that session was more about promoting it and which tools to use. That was when I was advised that like TikTok could be beneficial for me, and then how to go about promoting it as well as the messaging around the course. Because at the time I was still thinking moms were my main target. And the spirit guide was really like, no, 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 it's someone who, yeah, like, yes, moms are a subset, but it is someone who is younger than you and is on your path, but not quite where you are and wants to be where you are. And so that really helped with tweaking. And again, initially for me, I was I was a little thrown off that like the main target I've been talking to with my journals, moms with young kids, wasn't the same it was a messaging shift that I would have to go through. And so that threw me off because I was like, I know how to talk to moms. I'm a mom. I have two young kids. I know what our challenges are. I know the selling points that moms need to hear. And so that was like something that took a minute to get used to as well, that I was actually talking primarily to a different audience than I initially thought. I will say, I then completed a coaching program last fall. And as part of the coaching program, we worked with pro bono clients or clients on a pro bono basis to help build our confidence and clarify our offering and stuff. And I worked with 4 clients on 1 month containers, and all 4 clients just happened to be me 5 to 10 years ago, which I thought was so interesting. None were, not to say that I can't work with moms, but none were, who I initially thought. It was all who the spirit guide had said. And these were like I had posted on my Instagram, on a couple like founder groups I'm a part of, searching for people who would be interested in like this mini coaching container to help me gain the experience and practice. And it was just wild to me that those were the ones who responded.
Wow. Oh, that is really cool. I got full chills when you said that just now because it's so cool. Like your guide, and it's interesting because your guides kind of threw you off, and you were like, "That's not who I thought." Right. And then it
Yes.
is actually who is most aligned with you. And it is so true. And I think maybe this is just Jessica wearing her business hat right now, but I often find that usually the people we serve are sort of a version of us from 5 to 10 years ago, right? It's just like we're just a couple of steps ahead of them. I already carved the path, come follow me, right? So that's interesting. And I really took a lot from that, the way that your guide had said it. I was like, that's so insightful. I'm going to start thinking about that. And I actually guys, I learned so much from channeling for other people. And I really did take that to heart myself of actually, my ideal client is probably 5 to 10 years behind my own path, right? And so I actually think that that's so beautiful that that's what came through for your guides, and I took away something from that too.
I
So
agree. It made it, I mean, it does. It's like just when you're crafting your messaging and everything, it's talking to you in that 5 years ago. And that did make it easier.
yeah, because you know what you needed, right?
Right.
And what you wish somebody would have told you to get there faster, right?
Exactly.
So that's so beautiful. Is there anything else that sort of was like a big, like either a shock or an aha moment or anything that came through in either of the sessions that I didn't ask you about that you would love to share?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Honestly, I do feel like we covered it. Like I loved hearing about the past life. I think the TikTok was definitely a shock, but now it makes sense for me. And it was yeah, it's how I'm gaining even more confidence in showing up online because not as many people know me on TikTok as they do on Instagram. So it's a lot easier to show up as your authentic self when you don't feel like you're being judged by those who know you for one version of self. I think that we did cover it. Is there anything that you think?
No, I mean, I'm just so thrilled that like you really are, you're here, you're on the path, you have this course, right? You're coaching clients, you're doing the thing, like it's just so beautiful. But
Yeah.
I would love to kind of throw a little highlight on your kind of place of expertise, which is this beautiful manifestation process that you've created. Would you mind taking a minute and sharing with our audience members kind of like your process and, for the beginner, right? Or someone who's maybe just kind of coming into this world of manifestation, what do you suggest, or can you give us your framework or the breakdown of
I
what are
would
the steps?
love to share my framework. So it's 5 steps, and I know that might sound like a lot, but it is actually quite simple. I would say it takes 10-ish minutes, if that. And I try to do this 4-ish days a week. I always say ish because I'm a very realistic person and like life happens. Yeah, I aim to journal. It's a journaling method. I aim to journal, 4 days a week. And I think that this framework really covers the foundations both for journaling as well as manifestation. And I'll share it now. So, the first step is all about releasing. And this is where you just emotionally dump whatever is on your mind. So, really about clearing like the clutter from your head. And if you need a specific prompt, so this is where like you would just free write whatever you need in order to feel better mentally. But if you do need a specific prompt, one you can use is like, what do I need to release in order for X to come through? X being whatever it is you'd like to see come into your life. The second is all about gratitude. And this is really, I just make a bullet pointed list and I focus on 3 things that I'm grateful for currently as my current self, and then 2 or 3 things I'm grateful for thinking is my future self. And sometimes there might be some similarities between what my like future self and what my present self are grateful for, but there also might be some differences. When that big manifestation comes in, what does she feel grateful for? The third step is an optional just chance to visualize because visualization is really big in manifestation. And I like to do just like a 15-second, 30-second, it's really short, mini visualization, either of my future self in general or playing out like that manifestation that I'm calling in coming through. The fourth section is all about the feeling and kind of just reiterating that feeling behind this manifestation coming through, or if that's kind of hard to tap into, just something that you're excited about in general. And then the fifth section is all about aligned action. And this is meant to be just one micro step, micro thing that you can do before your next journaling session. So ideally within the next 24 hours towards that ultimate manifestation or towards your future self. So sometimes it might be like an item on your regular to-do list, and sometimes it might be like more of an energetic to-do. And actually, now I'm going back and I do have one gem that I'd like to share, I think, from our first session as I
Sure.
was talking about this. When we were going over I think when the guide was offering kind of saying, share your manifestation process and everything, the guide nailed my journal format. And that kind of was like mind blowing for me.
Oh yeah, I did. I forgot about that. There was a point where the guide, and I think you hadn't yet told me what the framework was. The
Yeah.
guide started sharing, like, here's the prompts, like,
Yeah.
here's what needs
I
to
think,
be on that
I
journaling
was
page.
asking like, should I tweak my journal? Um,
Mhm.
and the guide was saying, I don't remember the definitive answer, but the guide was kind of like, I don't think you fully need to tweak it, but there's some things that could change. And then they gave me the suggestion, and I maybe it was just more of a messaging thing, because when it came through what the format should be, I was like, oh my God, that's my journal. It's not like talking about it right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, I do remember now that I'm like, oh, I just watched this, a little bit ago, and the guide was like literally laying out, and you were like, that's exactly how my journal's
Yeah.
laid out. Like,
Yeah.
thank you,
Exactly.
Sierra Guide. So your guide knows you just as well as you do,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that that's that confident piece. It's like it was in me, but I just needed help refining it and everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Well, I am so excited for this audience to get a chance to explore your work and your journals and your beautiful course. So, can you share with us, where everybody can find you? And we do have a little bit of an exciting offer for the listeners of this audience. So, can you share all of the things?
Yes, of course. So my website is blissed.co, BLISSD.co. And then I'm pretty active on Instagram and TikTok, trying to be, which are both under the same handle at Blissed Co. And I'd love to give your listeners 30% off either my any of my coaching packages or my course. And then I'd love to do a giveaway with you for your listeners. One listener will win choice of either a 1 hour coaching session with me, a manifestation coaching session, or access into my manifestation journaling course, Magic Moments, by rating and reviewing your podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, guys, the way that's going to work is you're going to have to write a 5-star review on Apple or a review on Spotify. You're going to have to screenshot that and send it to my email. So, jessicarachel.snyder@gmail.com as proof that you did it. And then you'll get entered into the running to win the raffle, to either win one coaching session, or you said 1 month free in the course. Is that what you said?
No,
No,
it's
sorry.
lifetime access. So
Oh,
like,
lifetime access. Okay, even better. That's so amazing. And guys, know that the journals are included in her packages. So you're going to get a chance to see those journals too. And if you do want that 30% discount, it's the coupon code or promo code Jessica30.
yes, and I definitely forgot to share that promo code.
Yeah,
So
no worries. It's all going to be in the show notes, guys. It's all in the show notes with all the offerings and all the details. Thank you for being so generous. That is such a generous offer. And guys, don't walk, run to her website and go and check out all of her stuff. It is so beautiful. And I know for myself, that sometimes even as moms, and I know that we're saying that maybe not all of your clientele are moms, but there's really this piece of like, when I do get a minute to myself, what do I do with it? And most of us spend our time just like scrolling, doom scrolling, right? But if I actually had an intentional 5 to 10 minutes and I could do something like this, where it lays it out for you exactly what I'm going to do, that could actually better my future in a huge way. Let's do that. Right. And Allie's going to show you exactly how you do that and how to be a little bit more productive with your 5 to 10 minutes that you have to yourself each day. And I think there's no better gift. So definitely go and check out all her stuff.
oh, thank you. And wait, can I say two more things? Real
Please.
One, on that journaling method, if interested, anyone can get a free 3-day PDF of my journal with the method laid out by entering their email at my website. And then the second thing that I forgot to mention is I loved our sessions so much. I booked a session for my husband, and his session was back in December, and he had an amazing session. And just as a quick recap, similar to everything I said, things were on his list that came through as like the next step for him to do and take.
I know.
So Jessica, you're amazing.
Oh,
And
you're very sweet. That was a really powerful session, eh? We had a good time. And sometimes I kind of dread when, I don't know if it's dread, but like usually there's the spiritual woman who has like a non-believer husband.
yes, yeah, totally.
Right. And so I'm always like, oh, another husband being dragged to a session with me. They're going to
Yeah.
be like trying to, and he was so open, so receptive. I was like, that was a magical session. And you guys are such a power couple, right? Like you're
Thank
both these
you.
big entrepreneurs, right? It's so beautiful. So yeah, that was really fun. And I'm interested to see how that plays out for him as well. Maybe we'll have to do a 2.0 with him.
Totally. I just wanted to share that because I had forgotten to add that in. But
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful. I love it so much. And we had such a good time together, channeling so much for you, for both his business and your family. And it was just so
yeah,
beautiful. So yeah, amazing. Well, thank you, Ellie, so much. This has been such a pleasure. You are really, truly such an inspiration and really the example of what it can look like if you really take a minute to connect with your guides and then actually put that into action. Look how much more in flow your life can be.
yeah.
And so thank you for, being brave and having the courage to step into the unknown, even though, it's something your guide said it can be scary to do. So thank you for doing that and for being so generous to sharing all of your gifts with us. Yeah, just thank you for being here.
Jessica, thank you for, I mean, all you do and having this gift and everything. And I just really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you again.
Yeah. And guys, check out all of the stuff so that you can hook up with Allie and all of her beautiful offerings in the show notes. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.
Yay.